Let me ask you something quietly honest. When was the last time your birthday felt like something? Not just a date, not just a notification, not just a handful of messages you replied to out of politeness, but an actual feeling? When was the last time you felt the spark you once had as a child? The anticipation. The excitement. That strange little belief that the world might pause for you, even for a moment. Because somewhere along the road to adulthood, that feeling changed. For some people, it disappeared completely. They wake up on their birthday the same way they do on any other morning. They make coffee, check their phone, get dressed, continue life as if nothing is different. They brush off the day with a simple line. It's just a normal day. But that sentence, as harmless as it sounds, carries a story, a psychological truth that most people overlook. Birthdays are not just cultural rituals. They are psychological mirrors. They reveal more about your emotional life than you think. How comfortable you are being seen. How much you allow yourself to receive love. How you relate to attention. How you process time, memory, and identity. So when someone says, "I don't really celebrate my birthday," they might mean exactly that. But often, they mean something else. Something quieter. Something learned. Because emotional withdrawal can look exactly like maturity on the surface. Some people genuinely outgrow the sparkle of birthdays. They've learned to find joy in ordinary days. They no longer tie meaning to rituals. They feel peaceful, grounded, content without the fanfare. But for others, birthdays have a different emotional weight. They bring a soft ache, a subtle tension, a quiet reluctance. Not because of age, but because of memory. Birthdays carry reminders. Moments of being forgotten. Moments of wanting something small and not getting it. Moments when attention felt uncomfortable or undeserved. Moments when expectations turned into disappointment. Over time, the mind adapts. It lowers the bar. It learns to hope less loudly. That's the psychology of it. When someone repeatedly experiences emotional letdowns, even subtle ones, the brain starts building defenses. Psychologists call it emotional self-protection. It's not dramatic. It's not obvious. It's quiet and logical. The brain learns. If I expect nothing, I can't be disappointed. It begins protecting itself by lowering anticipation, suppressing excitement, minimizing emotional exposure, downplaying meaningful events, teaching the heart not to expect acknowledgement. This creates a psychological pattern. Avoid disappointment by avoiding emotional investment. It's not sadness. It's strategy. A survival mechanism disguised as indifference. But here's the twist. Even people who say they don't care still check who remembered, who messaged, who forgot. Not because they're needy, but because humans are wired to crave recognition, even when we pretend otherwise. Pretending not to care is still a form of caring. Just quieter. Just safer. Just hidden. Many adults who treat their birthday like a normal day experience a subtle form of avoidant validation behavior. This means they convince themselves they don't need recognition. Not because they truly don't want it, but because receiving it feels too vulnerable. People who grew up learning that their emotional needs were inconvenient often wrestle with three internal conflicts. They want to be noticed, but fear relying on anyone. They want to feel valued, but fear that attention won't last. They want to feel special, but fear being disappointed again. So instead of expressing desire, they express detachment. It's just another day. I don't need anything. No big deal. Not because they don't feel, but because they feel too much. And birthdays expose that tenderness. It's easier to reject the celebration than risk hoping for it. For many adults, birthdays carry a ghost. Not a dramatic memory, not a traumatic one. Just a quiet moment from childhood or adolescence, when they waited for something that never came. Maybe a forgotten birthday. Maybe a parent who seemed distracted. Maybe a friend who didn't show up. Maybe a celebration that felt forced or disappointing. These small emotional bruises accumulate. They send messages into the subconscious. Don't expect too much. Don't trust excitement. Don't depend on people to make you feel special. And so, as adults, they pre-protect their hearts. They reduce the emotional stakes. They convince themselves the day doesn't matter. Not to erase the past, but to avoid repeating it. Something else happens with age. The meaning of a birthday changes. When you were a child, your birthday was an external event. People gathered. People cheered. People brought things to you, gifts, attention, love. But adulthood flips that script. Now, birthdays feel more symbolic, more internal. They become private check-ins. Am I growing? Am I living honestly? Am I becoming someone I'm proud of? This shift from external celebration to internal reflection makes the day feel quieter, more intimate, less about the world acknowledging you, and more about you acknowledging yourself. Which is why many adults say, I don't need anything, because they're no longer looking outward. They're looking inward. Not everyone enjoys attention. Not everyone is comfortable being the center of a room, even if the room is full of people they love. For some, the spotlight feels overwhelming, exposing, unpredictable. Birthdays amplify that feeling because they come with expectations. Smile. Perform gratitude. React the right way. Enjoy the moment. Be happy on cue. And when someone feels pressure to look happy, their authenticity feels compromised. So rather than risk awkwardness, they keep the day simple. They downplay it. They choose quiet over attention. This isn't apathy. It's emotional comfort. Psychology has a name for what many adults do around their birthday. Hedonic guarding, protecting yourself from emotional spikes. The logic is simple. If I expect nothing, I won't be disappointed. It sounds defeated, but it's actually strategic. A form of emotional risk management. Because excitement creates vulnerability. And vulnerability can invite pain. So the mind lowers expectations. Not to eliminate joy, but to balance it. Yet underneath that practicality, a small part of them still hopes, still checks, still notices. Because indifferent people don't monitor who remembers. Only people who care do. As people become more emotionally self-reliant, Receiving love becomes harder. It feels foreign. It feels suspicious. It feels like a debt. People who've learned to depend on themselves don't always know how to receive warmth without deflecting it. So birthdays become neutral zones. Places where vulnerability is expected, but doesn't feel natural. These individuals often say, "I don't need anything. I'm fine. Let's just treat it like any other day." But beneath that maturity is a subtle paradox. They still want to feel valued. They just don't want to need it. Birthdays quietly trigger something psychologists call temporal self-awareness. It's when the mind compares the version of you today to the version of you a year ago. It asks, did I grow? Did I waste time? Am I where I hope to be? Did I lose something important? For many, this internal audit feels heavy. It brings nostalgia, regret, gratitude, pressure, self-reflection, uncertainty, quiet pride, quiet sadness, all at once. No cake or celebration can silence this moment, which is why some people choose simplicity, not because they don't care, but because reflection is easier in silence. Some adults genuinely feel content living their birthday like a normal day, because to them, the day doesn't need decoration to feel meaningful. Joy becomes quieter with age. It moves from performance to presence, from parties to peace, from attention to alignment. Celebration becomes taking a walk alone, a good meal, time away from noise, reflecting on the past year, giving yourself a small moment of relief. It's not the loud joy of childhood. It's the soft joy of adulthood. And that softness is not emptiness. It's evolution. And yet, beneath all the maturity, the peace, the practicality, and the emotional self-reliance, there remains a universal human truth. Everyone wants to be remembered. Everyone wants to be seen. Everyone wants to feel significant, at least once a year. Even those who shrug it off. Even those who stay quiet. Even those who say it's just another day. Because treating your birthday like a normal day doesn't mean you don't feel anything. It means you've simply learned to experience joy in your own language, quietly, privately, without asking for applause. And yet, if someone remembers you, if someone shows up, if someone says your name with sincerity, you feel it. Because in the end, we are human. We are wired for connection. And sometimes the softest celebrations are the ones that stay with us the longest.